It was just a really tough, hard-fought, and close contest by two groups. We came up on the short end of it. And from my perspective, particularly as you look back at it, how do you learn and grow from it? The pain that comes with not getting it done. How do we use that as fuel as we lean in on this week? How do we make necessary corrections in certain areas that become repetitive and sometimes two instances is a pattern?
It still works to be done. It's still attacking it the same way. Everything is still the same in terms of preparing for the next opponent.
So we got a lot to deal with, to be prepared for, but more than anything for us, it's about getting back to business, and getting back to business is winning.
Pass is caught, and that's a touchdown. That's the way to work. Come on. He's hit that sack. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
Welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. I'm Missy Matthews. The Steelers started the season out 3-0 before dropping their last two games. To make things worse, both of the losses were decided by 3 points, and both times Pittsburgh had a chance to win it late in the fourth quarter. For more on what went wrong against the Cowboys on Sunday night, let's welcome in Bob Pompeani, who's standing by with Coach Tomlin. Guys.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. Steelers coming off a tough game against Dallas, one that was there for the taking at the very end. Coach, you've had time to look back at this end of the game situation. There were a lot of timeouts back and forth. That last play, what actually happened on that last play that led to the Dallas game-winning score?
It was a 4th and goal play. They called a timeout. They wanted to ponder their possibilities. I let them get to the line of scrimmage. I wanted to see what formational structure that they were in that would give you an indication of maybe what they were trying to get done. We burned our last timeout in an effort to win that game right there in that moment and win that down. I'm still comfortable with the call we were in. Really comfortable, really with the coverage and so forth. Thought he made a really good throw and, number one, made a really good catch. Would have liked to have more pressure on him, but there was an attrition component to the game. At that time, we were out without Herbig and without Leal on the edge, and so that probably played into a component of the lack of pressure. But such is life in a football, man. We use the cliche gunfighters get shot. That's why it's a gunfight, and that was a gunfight Sunday night, man. It was an awesome game. We had our chances, and really up into that last moment, I felt really confident in our ability to secure victory, but we did not.
You guys got a shovel pass touchdown from Fields to Freiermuth. Your defense, which was, I thought, in the first half, especially on third down, pretty good. Second half, third down conversions were not in their favor. Those last couple of drives, what was the reason behind Dallas moving down the field on two long drives?
Again, as you mentioned, they won a bunch of third downs in the second half, and really, there's probably an attrition and arms race component to that discussion. Based on how we were made up in terms of the matchup of that game, we needed 7 to allocate toward coverage in the effort to minimize the likes of CeeDee Lamb and so forth. They were playing him a lot inside, and he would have one-on-one matchups with a guy like Beanie. And so we allocated 7 to coverage, which meant we had to do it with a 4-man rush. And in the second half of the game, as the attrition set in and we lost some of our capable rushers, that got compromised. And that's probably got more to do with it than anything else. Them being a little bit more effective in winning some of those moments. You win one-dimensional passing moments with rush and coverage collectively together. The mix, sometimes you lean more on rush, sometimes you lean more on coverage. But the bottom line is you need to be effective at both to win those moments and win them consistently. We've had both over the course of the season, really consistently. We didn't in the second half of that football game.
After the game, you talked about snap management for George Pickens. And, so far, he's had some games with big numbers, but also some games not so big, and he hasn't had a touchdown yet. Can you just elaborate on snap management and moving forward, the plan with him?
It's really simple. In an effort to get more productivity, you don't always increase reps. Sometimes you decrease and intensify reps. We do it oftentimes with our D-line rotation, and it's been very effective for us this year. Cam and Larry O are probably playing less snaps than they have in a long time, or at least Larry since he's been here, and Cam in a number of years. When we got capable people, it strengthened numbers, but also there's a component of optimum output based on number of looks, and that's just the discussion that we're in that scenario.
A lot of people looked at that and thought it was a disciplinary move. In any way, was that part of it?
No.
No. The other wide receivers, they have opportunities to step up. How much are you expecting from them? Again, if George Pickens is covering, gets a lot of the attention, who needs to step up more in that department?
You know, I think you've seen examples of it already throughout the season. Calvin's had a big game already. Freiermuth is a central component of what we do. I know he plays tight end, but he is a receiver, particularly in passing moments. And so we've got enough eligibles to spread the ball around too. I'm excited about that and anxious to see who's going to be the next guy within that group to step up and have a big game.
The run game, offensively for you guys, Najee Harris didn't have the kind of numbers I know you would probably expect from him. But I'm just curious, there was a time where you were a one-back guy, and with Jaylen Warren emerging, it seemed to divvy up the reps, and it served both guys very well. In this game last week, Najee was in there, but so were two other guys. Just your thinking behind using all three of them.
You know, we only had 3 backs suited. Wanted Najee to be available for us at the end of the game, and so you better find breaks for him during earlier portions of the game so he has what's required to finish the game. It's just more of a continued discussion on the snap management component of our game in 2024. I
know we talk about starts all the time. This is just the way it is in the NFL. You get a lead, it makes it a little different for your defense and also the way you operate on offense. Again, it wasn't what you probably wanted. I looked at the numbers and 2 touchdowns in the first 10 quarters in the first half of games. What has to change to improve those numbers? We just got to function better, to be quite honest with you. And we got to put guys in better position to function as coaches, and they have to do the job. All of us, players and coaches, have been working hard in that regard. It's not like we're ignoring the issue, but we hadn't had the results that we desire yet. Thankfully, it hadn't been catastrophic in terms of the outcome of games. Starts are just that, they're starts, they don't determine the game. We had leads in the second half of the game Sunday night, for example, and so certainly I'm interested in the start because it helps you control the game, but I'm not so obsessed with it that I'm not going to prepare our group for the totality of the 60 minutes. We're simply going to keep working. We feel like we're in the right neighborhood, knocking on the right doors. We're going to continue to work. We'll smooth it out. We got a lot of new components. We've had a lot of turnover in the offensive line. We've had different lineups just about every week. Oftentimes it's funny to me why people would ask when you think about some of those circumstances in terms of the newness. When we get a collective in the stadium, they gain cohesion, they settle down, we get down to business, we have opportunities to win the game. I'd imagine that's going to continue, and I'd imagine that the rate of that maturation and that cohesion is going to happen more rapidly as the more stadiums we step in. And the next stadium is going to be Allegiant. That's the Vegas Raiders. That's next up for the Steelers. I would imagine a lot of Steelers fans will make their way to Las Vegas. Steelers trying to get to 4-2. We'll talk about what's going on with the Raiders coming up next. Missy, let's head back to you.
All right, thanks so much, guys. And the Steelers made their first visit to Allegiant Stadium last season, beating the Raiders 23-18. And of course, hoping to have the same outcome this year on the way home.
Waning moments of the first quarter. Crowd up on its feet. Terrible towel swirling. Snap back to Prescott. Looking out to the left. Has time. Now he doesn't have time. The ball is out, and it's going to be recovered. Herbig comes away with it. And give half a sack to Trent Jordan. T.J. Watt. That is career sack number 100 for him.
One of the bright spots from Sunday Night Football was T.J. Watt recording 1.5 sacks, putting him over the 100 mark in his 109th game. Watt passed former Cowboy DeMarcus Ware for the second fastest in league history, only behind Reggie White. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Well, the Steelers will be facing a different head coach and starting quarterback than when they were in Las Vegas last season. Antonio Pierce and Aiden O'Connell were on the team, but not in their current roles. For a breakdown of the 2024 Raiders, let's send it back to Bob and Coach, guys.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. Next up, it's the Raiders, and it's a team that has some injury issues as well. They also have quarterback issues. Coach, let's talk about Antonio Pierce. You know him. He has the same kind of background. What do you expect from his defense in this game?
First of all, he's a quality football guy and leader. Been in the game, seen the game at a lot of different levels. He got the job because of his strong interpersonal skills and leadership skills. He's aggressive in nature and schematically, defensively. His defensive coordinator, Pat Graham, who I'm also very familiar with, they got a certain brand of football. They're intentionally aggressive. In situations and open play, they're going to work to get after you. And they got quality players to do it, obviously. Max Crosby is a game wrecker and has been for a number of years. I think it kind of starts there if you're trying to deal with the myriad of things that AP and Graham are going to give you. There's a schematic component to it, but there's also a personnel component to it. And it starts up front.
You often talk about how these teams are so evenly matched. I mean, there are a lot of guys on every one of these NFL teams that you never know what you're going to get week to week. We've seen them go to Baltimore and win. We've also seen them lose to Carolina. So it's one of those teams that even though they're having their issues, you have to be aware of some of the capabilities they have, which will lead me to offense. They have a good tight end in Brock Bowers. He is their leading receiver. He's the guy who comes off the ball and he can do some things when he gets the ball.
Yeah, he's got really good run after. The things that he's excelling at, he also excelled at in college. It's no mystery in terms of his productivity and how he's getting it done. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that as a rookie through 5 weeks, man, he leads all tight ends in receptions and yards. And so that not only speaks to his talent, but it also kind of speaks to how they've transitioned their focus toward him with the absence of Devontae some. And so, that's a balance that we have to manage as well. But again, that's just a strategic component of the game, something that really kind of happens to probably a lesser degree week in and week out.
Josh Jacobs is no longer there. He's in Green Bay. They have a lot of guys in their backfield. They use quite a few of them. How do you attack that run game, knowing that you want to stop the run? But there are some guys in this league who just need an opportunity. Zamir White's somebody who can take advantage of it.
Yeah, they got a quality committee, and really at different times, different members of the committee have had their moments. Madison's had his moments. As you mentioned, White has had his moments. And even Abdullah, they picked him up. And he's gotten increasing work with some of the missed time of White. And so Abdullah had a big run or two last week. And so they got a capable committee. For us, it's about the schematic component, stopping the run structure. The runner himself is less significant than being where it is we need to be and defeating the blocks. And so that's where our focus is in prep.
All right, well, the focus is going to be on the Raiders all this week, and Sunday, tomorrow, it's the big game. You'll see it on KDK at 4:05. When we come back, Mike Tomlin's keys to this game against the Vegas Raiders. Missy, back to you.
All right, thanks, Bob. And Sunday's game in Allegiant Stadium will mark the third and final time the Steelers get to play inside a dome this season. Then it's back to the elements. Coming up next, a look back at Pittsburgh's first championship and a Steelers story as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Super Bowl IX.
We were trying to recall, you may lose with me, but you'll never win without me. And finally, we got it put back together. Oh, yeah, I like that. Good, yeah. Okay, good.
You can lose with me, but you can't win without me. And that was Terry. That was Terry. He was always there in the big game.
Now it's time for our Yinz Chat predictive question. Will the Steelers defense have over or under 2.5 sacks versus the Raiders? Head to the Steelers mobile app and answer for a chance to win a football autographed by Joey Porter Jr. And remember to play every week for a chance to win the season-long grand prize. The 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show will be right back.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Well, this season marks the 50th anniversary of Super Bowl IX, and the Steelers will be celebrating that milestone next Saturday for a dinner when members of the 1974 team come in town for Alumni Weekend. For more on the Steelers' first championship, here's a preview of a Steelers story, Dawn of a Dynasty.
Terry not only had to fight for his job, he had an ongoing battle with one of our teammates, Dwight Mad Dog White.
I never forget one day in practice, Dwight used to bug him all the time. He'd hit him.
Sacked me, just decked me in practice. And I got the ball and slung it at him and slammed it upside his head or his chest. I was steaming.
And he said, "You better quit messing with me, quit hitting me." And Dwight would call him the blonde bomber, blonde bomber.
He was mouthing me, and I went and said, "Let me tell you something, Dwight. You may lose with me, but you're never going to win without me. You got that?" And I stormed off, and then that just came out. I don't know where it came from. And he comes over and he goes, "Blonde bomber, blonde bomber, whoa, 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 whoa." He stuttered when he goes, "Well, what was that saying?" What's saying? You know what I'm saying? You're going to win, you're going to win, you're going to lose. I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. And for the rest of practice, in between series, between the two of us, we were trying to recall, you may lose with me, but you'll never win without me. And finally, we got it put back together. Oh, yeah, I like that. Good. Okay, good.
You can lose with me, but you can't win without me. And that was Terry. That was Terry. He was always there in the big games, always.
Joe always defended Terry, and when Joe talked, people listened.
How you like us now?
He was the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year in '74, and our defense carried us this season until our offense finally found its identity, the running game. Frankel rushed for 800 yards over our last 8 regular season games.
Franco Harris told me after practice one day, he said, "Hey, Rook, we're going to the Super Bowl." I said, "Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do." He said, "No," he said with more sincere that we're going. And I believed him.
We finished the season 10-3-1, winning the AFC Central, and played Buffalo in the first round of the playoffs. Terry played great.
Buffalo was just huge for my confidence.
And we got all kind of running room. Yeah.
Couple of touchdown passes.
Bradshaw's back. The rush is on. He has to unload it. He does to Blyer. Blyer going in for the touchdown.
Defense was just amazing.
Yes, they were amazing and dominant, holding O.J. Simpson to just 49 yards.
The Steelers with this great victory.
We got a feeling Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl. We got a feeling Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl.
And the full episode will be debuting next Tuesday, October 15th at 7 p.m. on all of the Steelers' digital platforms. Well, Pittsburgh and Las Vegas are both coming off losses heading into their Week 6 matchup. The Raiders got off to a hot start against the Broncos before fizzling out, while the Steelers had another slow start and just couldn't catch up. It's time to send it back to Bob and Coach one final time for the keys to the game presented by your neighborhood Ford store. Guys.
Hey, Missy, thanks very much. When you play the Raiders, you look for big plays out there. We saw a few last year that helped your cause. Who will you dial up this year offensively to look at to try to take advantage of their defense?
Well, if I told you that, I'd have to kill you. No, all of our eligibles are capable. We're intentionally aggressive in a lot of areas, and distributing the ball to multiple eligibles is just a component of that. There's strategy and counter strategy. That ball we got down the field last year to Calvin for 71 yards was born out of their desire, for example, to minimize George. We knew in pressure packages that they would lean their free safety toward George a year ago in an effort to minimize one-on-one matchups down the field with him. And so we got Calvin on the opposite side of the field and got him in a one-on-one matchup and took advantage of that open space. And that's what I mean when I say that all our eligibles have our attention, because there is a strategic and counter strategy component to these discussions that you really don't know how they play out until you're there. but you better be prepared for a lot of those scenarios.
Minkah Fitzpatrick's always a big part of anything. He's near the ball all the time, but we haven't seen the splash plays that we saw in his first year here. What has to happen to get him more involved in those kind of game-changing plays?
Just keep playing, and a lot of it has to do with, how the game unfolds. Sometimes when you're up and people have to take calculated risks in an effort to get back into the game, it creates opportunities down the grass, particularly for center fielders and safeties. That's a component of it, but also a component of it is just simply playing. I laugh sometimes when I get questioned about his lack of productivity, say from a year ago when he missed 8 or 9 games. That's a component of the discussion as well. Just simply snap exposure. Minkah's a quality player. Nothing has changed with snap exposure. He's going to make splash plays just like breathing. You can rest assured of that.
In Atlanta, we saw a lot of Steeler Nation show up. Vegas is a prime spot. People have circled this day for. When you see that kind of support, what does it mean to your team, and how much does it affect your team?
We appreciate it, but we don't take it for granted. And I just think that that's the appropriate mindset to have. We don't expect it, but it's appreciated. And particularly when you're this far away from home, oftentimes I've come to understand, and I educate our players, is not the fact that our fan base travels, it's just the fact that our fan base is. Our West Coast Steeler Nation members get an opportunity to see us when we're out west. Early on, I thought maybe they were traveling from Western Pennsylvania, but I just think that we got a worldwide fan following that has really appreciated it. And oftentimes when we're on the west side, it's just those fans get an opportunity to see us in person.
And they're always very happy to do it. Coach, thanks, and have a great game. Appreciate it. That's going to do it for the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. For Missy Matthews and head coach Mike Tomlin, I'm Bob Pompeani. Tune in tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. We get it started, kickoff at 4 on KDKA. Have a great week. We'll see you next Saturday night.